You're listening to From the Chair, and I'm your host, Mike Hamilton. Join us each episode as we talk to athletic directors from across America. We're going to talk about topics like leadership, career development, issues of the day, and I can promise you we're going to have some fun along the way too. So sit back, listen in, and let's dive in. Let's go. All right, welcome into today's episode of From the Chair. Today, my guest is Ian McCaw, athletic director at Liberty University and a longtime friend. Ian, thank you for joining me.
Mike, what a privilege it is to be with you. Thanks for inviting me.
You know, I was thinking back Ian, over the last couple of days as we prepare for this, and you and I think that when we first met, we were on the NCAA personnel and recruiting cabinet. I think that was the terminology, and you know, just the diversity in the room. And I've often laughed about the fact that I remember one time we actually discussed for an hour and a half the size of note cards and whether or not you could use color or not, and can you print on the front or the back. And man, just think back over those last, gosh, I don't know, Ian, maybe 15 years or so, how college athletics has evolved during that time, you know?
Yeah, some of those issues we dealt with back in that era, you know, whether it was cream cheese on the bagel or not, and those the size of postcards seem pretty trivial given some of the issues we're dealing with today.
No doubt, a lot of things in the sauce these days. Hey, okay, so look, you've had an incredible career. I think, you know, I'll say a quarter of a century. I don't know if you should say a quarter of a century or 25 years, right? What makes you feel better and what makes you feel older? But an unbelievable run, you know, in Northeastern and UMass and Baylor and now at Liberty. And, you know, candidly, we all know this is a crazy business, right? I mean, tenures are shorter at places now than they've ever been. The push-pull, I was actually with an athletic director last night, and we were talking about how back in the day, they would advertise a 40,000-year job, and they might get hundreds of applications. And now they advertise that same job, and they're getting probably 25% of the applications they used to get, because just the way the industry is changing. I'd love to get your perspective. That's what I'm going to ask you for first. And we've kind of alluded to that briefly in the previous question, but your perspective of the change, what you've seen in these recent, I'll call it months, and the last, you know, 18 to 24 months, let's say, that you are encouraged by, and what you're concerned about.
Yeah, it's a great question, Mike. And I'm a veteran in this industry, and you and I have spent many years both at the Power Five level, and I had some years at the FCS level, and now kind of in between here at the Group of Five level at Liberty. So you see it from a lot of different angles. But you know, college athletics has evolved, and you know, I think many of the changes are positives. There's never been a better time to be a student athlete. I think we provide our student athletes today in terms of how we resource them, the support services, the overall experience they're provided. I don't think it's ever been better. So that's really at the core of what we do. So I think that part of it's gone really well. But with that has come some unique issues, whether it's NIL or the transfer portal, or you know, mental health's become a big topic on every campus. So you know, we're dealing with a lot of really positive things in college athletics, but certainly with those come some challenges.
Yeah, we'll circle back to the NIL and mental health pieces here later in our interview. So Liberty University, I'm old enough to remember when the institution was founded, and Dr. Falwell set a plan for the institution, and this is a paraphrase. I don't know that he actually said it in this way, Ian, but there's something along the lines that he wanted Liberty University to become the Baptist version of Notre Dame, and you know, achieve great success on the athletic fields and courts of competition, and certainly there's been significant growth in the Liberty athletic program. You've overseen a lot of that here in the recent years. Tell me, let's first start by approaching what role does faith still play? I know it certainly does on your broader campus, right? But what role does faith still play in your athletic department?
Yeah, well, as you said, you know, Dr. Falwell's vision was to build a world-class evangelical Christian university that has NCAA athletics at the highest level. So he often did talk about Liberty being aspirational for the evangelical Christian community, as Notre Dame is to Catholics, and BYU is to Mormons. So that's very much the vision that we chase each and every day. And this is a Christian university that we have an environment here where we encourage our coaches and faculty and others to share their faith, integrate their faith into their work. So whether that's in a classroom setting or whether that's in a practice environment or whether that's in a team devotion, whatever it may be. But we are very unapologetically Christian here at Liberty.
So as you think about your evolution as an athletic program from FCS to FBS and now getting ready to enter a new conference for all your sports, but in particular football, um, I remember one time I was talking to Jeff Barber, your predecessor, and he was talking about the fact that as it related to conference affiliation, because your institution has a unique funding model relative to athletics, some schools, maybe in less resource conferences, were worried about the ability to compete against Liberty because of the resources. Do I remember correctly, Ian, that part of your resource allocation is really based upon the fact that you've got an unbelievably um, diverse and expansive student body, both on campus and online, and then the university has then taken and said we're going to allocate not only the on-campus funds but some of the off-campus funds to the athletic enterprise. Is that? I know your endowment has grown. Where I'm going with this is the the really clearly seeing what you've done in facilities the last several years is nothing short of phenomenal. I mean, you've got first class facilities, and so that's an institutional decision. It's a credit to your leadership. It's the vision of the institution. There's obviously funding that some of that's fundraising, some of it's university provided. Really, just kind of wanted to unpack that for a moment if we could.
Yeah, we're very blessed, Mike. Liberty University is extremely well resourced, and it does come from our student body. We have 15,000 students residentially on campus, and we have a very large online program. We have about 112,000 online students. So we're the largest Christian university in the world, and that resource. Has really been important to us in terms of building out the entire campus, including athletic facilities. If you walked across our campus, most of the buildings you see have been constructed within the last 12 years or so, and the university spent about $1.3 billion in investing into the physical plant to just build out this spectacular, very modern campus. And we've been the beneficiary of that since I've been at Liberty the last 6 years. We've spent almost $300 million in athletic facilities alone. So we've got some really sparkling, new and very attractive athletic facilities that serve our program extremely well. So that is a blessing. It makes us unique. And to your point, I think that does intimidate some conferences or some schools as far as competing with us because we are extremely well resourced.
So you're taking those resources now and making another move from a conference perspective. And you have been playing as an independent the past several years. Your first full year in Conference USA is what, 23, 24? Is that right?
It is, yeah. We'll transition into Conference USA next year, and we're really looking forward to competing in, for conference championships and at the FBS level for the first time. And we aspire to compete for championships in Conference USA, and potentially that Group of 5 berth in the New Year's Six games as well.
So before we get to Conference USA, let me ask you a question. I know that it probably, there aren't a lot of athletic directors that'll have the opportunity to schedule as an independent in football, and there's probably some positives to that, probably some negatives. I don't know, but I think it's more than anything else. It's curiosity, right? Because to put together a schedule in any situation is interesting. We know that. And in particular, when you don't have a conference, 7 or 8 games that are already there for you. I know obviously that's going to be addressed by moving into the league, but maybe share a couple of the, just anecdotes about what it's been to schedule those conference games and have a robust schedule as an independent. And by the way, you can look at your schedule even this year and see you've got a very diverse group of opponents, home and away, some major Power 5 programs and everywhere in between, right? So would really just love your insight there.
Yeah, that was we had received a waiver from the conference of the conference invitation requirement to be able to move up from FCS to FBS as an independent. And we had to go before a couple of NCAA committees, and they agreed with us, and that the biggest challenge we were going to have was building out our schedule, because when we moved up officially in February of 2017, we had to have a fully built out 2018, 19, 20, 12-game independent schedule. And starting from scratch to build that out one was definitely one of the biggest challenges I've had really my entire career, and could not have done it without Dave Brown from Gridiron. Was just a tremendous resource. Mickey Gritty is our point person here on scheduling, and the two of them and I literally worked on that every single day because it was such a large task, but came together really well. We've had great independent schedules, as you mentioned. For us to have a home and home with BYU, for example, again, that was part of Dr. Falwell's vision, and that was really exciting. We just had a game against Arkansas this past weekend that we were able to squeak out, and we'd be able to get some good ACC opponents as well. So we've really been very blessed with the schedules, but that was an enormous undertaking.
So geography is obviously one reason, but why is Conference USA the right move for you guys?
You know, that's been really the goal here for, 15 plus years to get to an FBS conference. And many attempts were made, prior to my arrival. And then again, we were able to move up as an independent. But getting to that FBS level is a really big step for us. And again, we see that as being increased revenue, increased exposure, having guaranteed bowl opportunities, access to postseason. And we just announced today the new Conference USA television agreement with ESPN and CBS. All of those things come together to really give us some stability as a conference member that you don't have as an independent.
Right. Okay, so we've got to talk about this football season. I know you've got success across many of your sports, but I want to talk about football for just a moment, because you've already alluded to the fact that when we're recording this, you have just defeated Arkansas in Fayetteville. That's a big, big win for your program. It's the first win over an SEC school, and you're now ranked in the top 20, which a lot of your aspirations over time are coming to fruition. And a lot of that's the support you guys have given, and then a lot of that's the players you've recruited, and certainly your football coach, Hugh Freeze. And I want to talk about Hugh for a moment, and then we'll talk about just the success of the specific season. So I know Coach Freeze and have spent some time with him and everything. Great guy, unbelievable coach. You just signed him to a new 8-year deal through 2030. I think if the media is correct, he'll be the highest paid Group of 5 coach entering the 2023 season. That shows a significant commitment by Liberty University. Hugh, had a great run in the SEC, and then sat on the sidelines for a couple of years. And I don't want to call it took a chance on me, because I don't think that's fair to Hugh. But you saw something in him that said, "Hey, this is a guy who fits our program and who we can have success with." And so maybe just talk about your relationship with him, hiring him, and what you've seen since he arrived there in Lynchburg.
Yeah, Mike, he's done an exceptional job in the 3.5 seasons here. As you mentioned, just an outstanding coach, and he really aligns with and embraces the school's Christian mission and the vision of Dr. Falwell. So it's been really interesting that as many of his friends have come, and family members as well, to come to visit with him. Here, I've had a chance to interact with a lot of them, and they tell me they've never seen him happier than he is here at Liberty. And it's just he's found a really good situation. He does a great job of pouring into our student athletes spiritually. That's something he finds very rewarding. And again, this is an environment where developing our student athletes spiritually is not just tolerated, it's encouraged. And that's not the case on every campus around the country, as you know. So it's just a really good fit. It's been great for him, great for Liberty, and we hope it continues for many years to come.
So not only for Hugh, but across your sports enterprise, Ian, sitting in the position you've been in, and now maneuvering you're moving to Conference USA. Where do you guys sit in that nexus of the transfer portal? Being able to have guys, young ladies come into the program who maybe were at larger schools or grad transfers or whatever. I'm interested just where you see your institution fitting in the stacking of where all that's taking place.
Yeah, Mike, the transfer portal has been really good to Liberty, and I've spent a lot of time talking with our coaches about it. We feel like we have a really strong culture in our athletic department, so we've lost very few student athletes to the transfer portal, very very few, and those that do, primarily because they weren't playing and were seeking an institution where they might have more playing time. So we haven't had much attrition. And on the other side, we've really benefited from getting some really outstanding student athletes who've come here. And I'll just throw a couple names out. Well, Malik Willis would be the most notable, who's the backup quarterback with the Tennessee Titans right now in the NFL, was a great quarterback for us for the previous 2 years. And what we found is that just in talking to student athletes coming out of high school, even though they were maybe interested in a Christian environment, they felt that it was too hard to turn down a Power Five opportunity. So they went the Power Five route initially. And for whatever reason, it wasn't what they hoped. And then second time around, they've come to Liberty and really come more for our mission and the Christian environment that we have to offer. And they have thrived. And it's really been a good situation for us. So the transfer portal has been really, really good to us. And the student athletes have come in. They've been cultural fits. They've made great contributions on the court or on the field. And it's really worked out extremely well.
So let's talk about recruiting for a second. You've alluded to the fact that you're the largest Christian university in the world, and you've got 15,000 on-campus students and 100,000 online. What has that meant to you in recruiting? I would assume that you're still primarily regionally recruiting, but I would also think because of your reach, the name, the scope of your academic opportunities there, that it might have allowed you to expand beyond maybe what you started to do originally as a program, more regionally and expand more nationally. Is that true or not?
That's a very good observation, very good insight. So, certainly our athletic brand has grown quite a bit over the last few years. So we are recruiting more nationally, but our sweet spot, if you will, is really the Bible Belt, really from here in Virginia down through the Carolinas, Georgia, North Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, across through Texas. That's really, we do extremely well in those states, and just a lot of families that are looking for what we offer in terms of a Christian atmosphere. And so that's really our sweet spot. But we are seeing more national and even international interest in our program as our brand has grown.
So part of that recruiting process is now the NIL narrative, right? Over the last 18 months, and certainly that's changing daily right now, really. But curious as to how Liberty views your NIL initiatives, what you're doing in that space, and then are you have an active collective at this point, or share a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, so we work with Influencer to have an exchange. So we do have NIL opportunities for student athletes, and we've also done some group licensing with Brander. So we do provide. We have many of our teams have signed up for that, for the jerseys and T-shirts and so forth. So those two things have been up and running. We were slow to move into the collective world. We wanted to make sure we were definitely aligned with NCAA guidance, and as that's changed here recently in the last couple of weeks, and so we're dipping our toe into the collective world a little bit right now, and looking at setting up a collective that would maybe create some more opportunities for our student athletes. But we are very inward focused in terms of NIL. We are not going to get into recruiting bidding war. That is not that just doesn't align with our values. We're going to provide NIL opportunities for our current student athletes, and that's the way we're going to approach things.
So here's a question I hadn't even thought of until we're in the course of this conversation. Because of your online presence, you have connectivity that is significant. How are you guys from a marketing and exposure standpoint? I've seen BYU's back of house and how they're able to take their message to the masses, particularly in the Mormon faith community. I'm curious, does Liberty have that opportunity as well to be able to spread what you're doing athletically, whether it's through micro content or social media or perhaps more broad content, long form content? Do you have a network because of your online activity at the institution to be able to spread that messaging?
We do, and so we have a $22 million broadcast studio. We regularly have Power Five come to visit us to take a look at our production facilities. So they are state of the art, and we do have a large delivery system just based on what we do with online education. So we do have unique ability to get our message out, and we do a lot in the digital marketing space as well, and have some great expertise on campus that we can call upon that helps us in that area. So those are definitely some advantages that we have.
Yeah. So I said I was going to circle back to your successes following football. Certainly, you've got an opportunity here to have. Well, it's already been an incredible season. At this point, it's your best season in history, or equals your best season in history. What's next? I mean, obviously the move into the conference, but what's the next phase of growth for Liberty football?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, really I think the highlight of our season, we talked about the Arkansas game, but hosting BYU here, again, this was kind of in line with Dr. Falwell's vision. Winning that game was really important milestone. I think really kind of brought our whole community together to say, you know what, people thought Dr. Falwell was crazy 50 years ago when he was talking about Liberty being like Notre Dame and BYU, and now we've actually played BYU. We've found a way to win. We had our first ever sellout, 24,000 fans. So we've checked a lot of milestone boxes this year, and as you mentioned, the Arkansas win as well, and national rankings. So, where we go from here, certainly it's going to be moving into Conference USA, and we feel with our resource commitment and facilities that we can compete at the top of the Group of Five. And so, if we could earn that Group of Five berth in the New Year's Six, that would be something that would be aspiring to do next season.
Certainly headed towards that opportunity, no doubt. So facilities wise, we've talked about the incredible number of dollars that have been spent over the last 5 to 10 years in that area. Is there anything on the horizon there? Additionally, what you've already done?
Some of the other ADs are not going to like me saying this as they're listening to it, but we're kind of running out of projects, Mike. It's we've done so much. We some of our recent additions. We just built a new basketball arena, $67 million state-of-the-art facility, and we have a new athletic center, $30 million project we just opened. We have state-of-the-art indoor track and natatorium. We're getting ready next month to open a new multi-purpose center, kind of a place for all sports during inclement weather. So the list of needs is a lot shorter than it was when I arrived 6 years ago. And we're just, again, very blessed to have the resources to get so many of those projects completed.
Tell me why you like living in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Oh, just a great place. And I transitioned previously in Waco, very similar communities, both about 100,000 people. And you have all the amenities you need, but you don't have some of those big city issues. I don't necessarily enjoy traffic and trying to scramble around to find parking spots and things like that all the time. So it's really good quality of life, nice pace, and very friendly people. So it's been a really good move for us.
So last question. I know you're an active learner, and I've heard you talk a little bit about your interest in the subject matter of leadership. And maybe signal to those who are listening a podcast they ought to listen to, a book they ought to read, or something that's really on your mind and heart relative to your growth in that space that you can share with others on this podcast.
Yeah, Mike, I think you and I share a love of leadership, and that's really been my hobby for the last 30 years is studying leadership. And I enjoy reading leadership material, John Gordon, John Maxwell. I guess a book I'd recommend, Lead Like Jesus by Ken Blanchard is one of my favorites. And recently been studying a lot about habits. Mark Batterson's book, Win the Day, is a really good one I'd recommend as well. But yeah, I've really been focusing, I guess, the last 6 months to a year on having good habits and good spiritual disciplines. If you can have those two things in place, I think those are really foundational for anyone's life.
It's awesome. Hey man, I want to thank you for sharing. This has been great. It's moved fast. You probably aren't even aware that we've moved as fast as we have. But I appreciate you joining me today and bringing some great information for our listeners.
Thanks so much, Mike. Appreciate you having me.
All right. So this has been From the Chair. I'm your host, Mike Hamilton. You can listen to us every week right here on any audio platforms for podcasts, and you can see us on the video format of this on YouTube each week. So we hope you'll join us each and every week, and we'll see you next time.